Here is the man.
Thank you, Mark. Can everybody hear me properly? So, today, I want to solve two major questions. And the question one is a question that's being asked to me every single day. They just asked it to me twice. And every single day, somebody calls me and asks me the same question. Is it Michael or is it Michael? Right? It's Michael, actually. The second question is, Michael, I want to win in sales. I want to close more deals. And I think I need a closing training because I have a sales team, I have a marketing team, I have all this stuff, and I want to close the last part. And each time I have to go back and say, I think it's the wrong question. And I'll explain to you why. Because if we really start thinking about sales, because that's what we're going to talk about today, sales is very simple. And I wish somebody would have told me this 25 years ago. It's either you're too early, either you're perfect on time, note the word perfect, or you are too late. And you know what's funny? If I go out and I want to sell a fire extinguisher, if I see a house on fire, I go there, I'll sell it very quickly. And we can debate if it has powder, it has air, or compressed air, or it has water. But if I do the same thing and I go out into the world, my conversion ratio will only be 2%. So a lot of sales complain to me, say, Michael, I have this great product or service. I go out, I start talking about it, and I have no conversion. I do cold calling. Statistics are 100 cold calls, and you get 1.5, if you're good, appointments. So how can we beat the bloody 2% that you see here? Sales must be more. So when we talk about revenue, we talk about chief revenue officer, we need to find a way to do this in a very, very different way. And one of the things that annoyed me is a lot of these salespeople and sales directors come to me and say, Michael, I get no from morning till evening. So I found a nice picture for this. For me, it's like you're swimming in the lake of rejection, right? So if we want to beat the 2%, we've got to beat the rejection. We've got to reject the rejection, right? So how do we do it? Well, if we look at a sales system, it always goes like this. On one hand, you have what I call sales fuel. So when you drive a machine, you got to pour a lot of fuel. And when you're Formula One, you got to even put more fuel in it. Then we have the sales machine, which is the sales skills, the process, the pipeline, all of that. And I thought I was there. So I helped 4 years ago, started a business, helped a lot of startups, helped a lot of scale-ups, went to the corporates, got annoyed, went back to the scale-ups, and I felt something's missing. And if even you have the best lead machine in the world, at a certain stage, you cannot just take whatever you get and put it to the sales. No, you have to have a conversation. So I'm currently writing actually a book about this, is how do you architect your sales storyline? How do you get people to do something? And we'll talk about what the something is later on. So as typical corporates go, they'll tell me, Michael, that is a really nice story, and I had a good laugh with one of your jokes, but how can I control all of this? So to understand how we could potentially control, if we want to control, we need to look at a sales machine. And the sales machine has 5 major components. One is the process, clearly. 2, if you want to scale process, you've got to have the people, so the team. 3, we need to find a way to talk to the outside world. And 4, we need a way that the outside world finds us and talks to us. And finally, maybe a little bit about tooling, because there is a pattern coming that I'm pretty sure none of you have seen. I'm almost sure none of you have seen, let's say it that way. And I just want to highlight it because I think the future of sales is going to have something really strange there which you didn't expect. So let's grow into a CRO. How do we do it? So I think we should start with the end. We should start with the closing. It's always better to start with the end. So how do people buy? And we can spend hours, we can spend weeks how this works. Let me make this very simple for you. I have a problem. I go online, look for a solution. I find something, I compare, I select it, and I buy it. It can be a software, can be a service, it doesn't matter. Now here comes something weird. If I stick to the 2% and I want to close and I want to sell my fire extinguisher to the house on fire, I'm going to talk about the fire extinguisher. But what if my house is not on fire? I do not even understand the problem. So most of your prospects are looking for the problem, not for the solution, because they do not know the solution yet, right? So one of the big sales techniques is actually to talk about the problem, making the problem bigger, and then you get acceleration. So while most thinking about that, and I saw some of you doing this, so let's talk about your website. I'm pretty sure 90% of your websites all go like this. You have this top part, nice picture, most of the time something spacey, something vague that kind of moves, and that says, we are fantastic. These are our products, these are our services, here are some logos of customers that talk about us, and here is our blog with a newsletter that talks about our products and how many prizes we won. And then maybe, potentially, you have something about a newsletter. And then you wonder how come that websites don't convert. Because you're doing the 2%. You're aiming at the people, their house is on fire, you were looking for the shortcut. You should turn it around. If you want to make it bigger, you should turn it around. You start with the problem, you say how you could solve it, what the model is, and then you start explaining how you, as a company, can solve that. Now, just to test how your brains are functioning after a coffee, I put this thing in there, right? Anybody has an idea what it is? Checking time, because Mark said to me, gotta stick to the time. No, it is a big, fat green line. Yes, exactly. You see the level, we're going down as we go along, right? So this guy with a sweater with his own name, and you thought, oh boy. So this line is something very important, because this line does something very, very, very important that people don't realize. It's the difference between not selling and selling. If I don't know my problem, I'm looking for a solution, I'm looking for the problem. If you try to sell to me, I'm gonna run off. If I'm ready to buy, then you sell to me. And that is where most companies go wrong. That's where 90% of all salespeople that I meet go wrong, because their boss told them, you gotta bloody close. So they try to close every single thing. It's not gonna work. You've gotta close the next step. If you know that 80% of the deals gets closed in B2B between the 8th and the 12th meeting, you know in the first meeting that you should close the next meeting. What's the next meeting? Getting technical people together, showing use cases, calculating, I don't know what, but it's not closing the deal. So we gotta start really to think differently about this stuff. And if we look at the sales process, and this works for most companies I help with, you have all these steps. And one of the things, completely side tip, is most companies forget this one, the negotiation. They say, okay, we send an offer, and then the customer will say yes or no. What they forget is that you need the granularity, because it could take 9 months, 12 months that you're stuck in the negotiation phase, right? And the good companies in Belgium, they're average, so you have an idea. It takes you, when you have 100 deals there, you close about up to 15% you will close when you're here. Now, I said I was going to show you a process, and now we need to move to team. So imagine I want to sell a product or service. I go to a new market. So what do? I hire a sales, and that sales is gonna phone, gonna come to receptions, gonna do cold emailing, all of that, and then they're gonna do some presentations, they're gonna do a proposal, they're gonna do negotiation, validation, and closing, right? I see all of you going like this, yes? If I talk to CRM vendors, HubSpot, Salesforce, this is what they show me. The question is this reality? And I helped over 250 companies, and I have never, ever seen this outside of a Salesforce or HubSpot slide. The reality is this: I start in sales, I do a phone call, I like to talk to people, so I'm going to put the weight of what I do in what I love to do, which is the negotiation, which is the relationship, which is the talking. And what happens is, I have no deals, I start talking, I'm getting a deal, oh, my pipeline is growing, I'm having the deal, I won the deal. Fuck, I forgot to take care of the fuel, up, and we're off again. So the impact of this, and I see this everywhere from small to big, is fluctuating revenues. And if there is one thing you don't want, it's fluctuating revenues. You want a stable, layered growth, actually. So how do you solve it? Very quickly, you gotta put the prospecting part in a new role, and there are two ways. It's called inside sales. It's explained here. There are two versions: sales development rep, and there is a marketing development rep. Basically, it's to decide in which department the person would sit, sales or marketing. And what they do is, their role is to either find a way to continuously go outside to push, and the other one is, if you have a lot of leads coming in, is to qualify. And all these models depend on the type of business you're in. And these models have been perfected and grown by some of the fastest growing companies. If I think of Belgium, I think of Showpad. I think of Teamleader. I think of all these software as a service companies. Now, funnily enough, I tried this on many different businesses. A good buddy of mine has a waste pump business, so he's literally in the shit every day. And we tried this 2 years ago, and in about 9 months, he became the Benelux market leader. Because in his industry, nobody would even think of doing something like this. Secondly, cost optimization. Of course, this is very, very interesting because you can get 2 inside sales for the price of 1 sales. So, as we were swimming in the lake of rejection, I need to talk about cold outreach, right? So, typical cold outreach, you think of sales, you think of the Wolf of Wall Street. What do you think of? Right? The hum. You see where they got the inspiration? That's why I'm wearing this silly sweater. So what do you think of cold calling? If my boss used to get angry because I was waiting for the leads, I didn't know what to do, start calling, Michael, start dialing. And if that doesn't work, start emailing. Hit ratio 2%, the other hit ratio 0.2%. And if that doesn't work, we all get drunk on reception and talk to people, right? Look at today, eh? Give me some time. Now, and then, funnily enough, you forget about it. And you start all over. So if you think about what we are doing is, we're actually having an extremely sequential process, which is very slow actually, and we have to repeat it over and over, and we talk about ourselves, right? This is my fire extinguisher. So we should do this very differently. If I look into the now, if I look into what the successful companies are doing, they do this completely differently. They are trying to go, for instance, let's take LinkedIn as an example. They start connecting, so they find their audience, they connect to the audience, and then they give them value, which is something very different than saying, here is my product or service, right? And what I do is I'm going to try to cross multiple channels. I'm going to do stuff like personalized emails. See, hi, Mark. Imagine I'm Mark. I would open the email. You know, that's funny. That personal email, that little video, that works unbelievably on LinkedIn. I've only seen it once. So try that. See how it works. Also, if you know that most of the customers, there is only a 2% of houses that's on fire, you know you need to go back. So make sure you can go back. In the previous slide, you cannot go back because it's a one-hit wonder. Here, because I'm sharing value, I can go back and back and back again. I have an excuse to go back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my pipeline massive. But there are 2 problems. One, why on earth would somebody listen to you, right? So the question here is, gotta click is it you or the company they need to listen to? And the second thing is, what's this value thing? Because if I say value-based selling and all of that, you go like, yeah, Michael, yeah. But if I ask you what it is, right? You get stuck. The question is then, how can we then produce that at scale and get this circle running? So let's start with the first one. Very simple experiment. What you see here is my website, which you see is very low because I was on holiday. I didn't post anything for a month. And then I posted something on my own name, Michael Humblet. And I got 150 visitors to my company website. I found this very weird. I say something, people come to my website. So the last 2 years, I spent an awful amount of time trying to dig into the detail of that correlation. And you know what's funny? And you might have noticed it all of yourself. If you post something on LinkedIn, let's take LinkedIn as an example, you get a lot of traction, a lot of likes. If you post something as a company, nothing happens. So I just checked the Google slide. Google, 27 million followers on LinkedIn. Funny, Google on LinkedIn, by the way. 27 million followers. They have posts with 3-4 likes. But if one of Google people would post, they have more likes. So there is an immediate correlation between 2. And then the question is, what should you talk about? Well, it's funny. If I would ask all of you about what you do every day, I'll probably have to kill you because you won't shut up. You are the experts. So please talk about your expertise because that's giving the value, right? And then you think, yeah, Michael, you're just pushing your book, right? And then you're trying to do all of this. Yeah, even big companies do this. Let me give you an example of a small company. This is Deloitte. This is their main webpage. You can click on that because it's always struggling to find content, and they point you at an article in LinkedIn. And funnily enough, they can say, we have all these experts, you should work with us, we have all these experts in the house, and this guy becomes expert because he works at Deloitte. It's like a self-fulfilling circle, right? But it works really, really well. So then the next question is, okay, Michael, so we need to find a balance between you and the company. That's a very stupid example. Instead of posting on the company, telling everybody, reshare, do the opposite. Somebody, an expert talks, reshare it via the company. So what's real value? And I spend a lot of time thinking about this. If most companies talk about what they do, is the delivery side. I do something, I can shortcut your time, I can unburden you. It's the really bad English translation for het woord ontzorgen. Then where does value start? And value starts in an interesting spot. And it starts with inspiration. But inspiration is layered. And I know this morning you had somebody talking about this, but inspiration is layered. If I talk to Mark, he will be thinking about what in a year, what in 2 years. But if I talk to somebody working for Mark, they're probably thinking about knowledge, their own career. So I need to find a way to build layers of inspiration because I want to reach as many people as possible. And then I made a thinking mistake. I did something really inspirational. I had a hero movie. I was on stage. I saw the whole stage going up. Ah, Michael. And then I said, and here is my product. And the whole stage went, Bwah. And I thought, why? Why is that? And it's a very simple mechanic that all of you will have. It's when you are here and you watch something, you think, I'm smart. Yes, you are. And I can do this myself. So you're going to look for material to do it yourself. And funnily, the more I talked about how to do it yourself, the more I realized that my true customer comes to me so I can do it for them. It's not because I tell you how to do it that you can operationalize it. And a lot of companies say, yeah, but Michael, IP and we got to be careful. And I said, just try it. So I think instead of spending 90% of your time creating content about your product, why don't you start creating 90% of your time content that's inspirational and educational? Because that way I can go back and back and back to the same prospect until he's ready to buy. Educate until they freaking buy. And the good thing about it is you won't be feeling like a salesperson, because a lot of people tell me, yeah, but Michael, I'm not a sales guy. Okay, then don't be the sales guy. Do this instead. But everybody's busy. And I said to Mark, again, sorry Mark, that I would be polite. So I'm going to show you what I think about this. I can't say it. This is what I think about it. If everybody's busy, nobody has time, I want you to exactly do that. I looked for the most difficult thing to do because I knew if I could do it, I have a competitive edge. So I found a way to record 20, 25 videos in one single day. Everybody has time one day, right? And those 20, 25 videos create me minimum 5 to 6 months of content. Every week I can post something about my expertise, and I do it in a layered way. If I want to talk to the Marks of the world, I'll do strategic stuff, 5 movies about that. And then next up, I'm going to do very operational stuff. Operational stuff is, how do you solve my shit of today? Here is the answer, right? And then I take all of this content in different formats, and I'm basically going to make baited material. So the advantage is you create thought leadership. People consider you as the expert at multiple people in your company. And then you create material that you can send, hey, we don't know each other, but here is something that might help your business. Maybe not today, but I'm sure in 9 months they'll think of you. And then we have one final step left, which is how do we distribute, how do we work with tools to do this? And I wanted to share something that I find very amazing. So if I look at a company, and I look at the persons working in the company. So companies, marketing, let's say the marketing division, they have the website, they have all of these marketing automation. This morning you heard some stuff around, all the stuff and the data, everything you could do. And as a person, I'm working in a company, I'm dealing with the CRM system. So what's the evolution? So the evolution, if you look at marketing, is all the stuff around growth marketing. You start really adding tools, you start connecting all the dots. It becomes very complex, but it's extremely powerful. But something else started happening. Because I'm a sales and I'm listening to this stuff and I'm watching what's happening and I'm sitting there every week and I get my 2 leads, but that's not enough. So I want to have more. And I try to look in my own network, but I'm stuck. And then my boss says, yeah, Michael, you got to start phoning, which is completely inefficient. So I'm thinking about this, and while I'm teaching sales and people, I started noting a pattern. And let's go back 10 years. 10 years ago, you had an iPhone, you had an iPad, you had a laptop at home, and all of these devices were stronger than what you had at work. So you would try to bring them, you would try to use them, and companies got really scared and said, no, you cannot do it, and then they made this compliance stuff that you can never touch it. But 10 years from there, that point, so now what we see is they've integrated, they've evolved. What I see is the rise of personal tooling. Because if we talk about LinkedIn, and I'm going to use my LinkedIn as a personal brand to generate leads for the company, it's still my LinkedIn. So I'm going to need some tooling. And here is a very nice little stack that I've seen a lot, where you start to scale your network, you then automate the work of the scaling, you then need some small design for a picture, and then eventually you need to write something, and you end by figuring out, how can I reach this person? And this little tool called Lusha just integrates directly into LinkedIn, gives you the phone number, gives you the email. It is really scary. So the rise of own tools in the next year is going to get bigger, bigger, and scarier. So there goes your GDPR compliancy out of the roof. So I don't know yet how to solve this, but we got to start thinking how to integrate this and put a frame around it so people don't go completely rogue. All right. So I wanted to share with you, as final slides, a real example. This is a company called We Group. They're a software company. They basically did all the stuff I just explained. And to give you an idea, so what you see here at the top side is the people, then you see the KPIs, how they're measured, and you see a full end-to-end process. In 7 weeks, they tripled their monthly recurring revenue. It's crazy the impact it had. Now, to start wrapping up, if we look at sales, sales is evolving. So if we go back to that first slide, first, instead of just hiring salespeople, we need to think about the roles, we need to optimize, and we need to put high-velocity roles. 2, stop doing the single channel approach. I need you to do multiple channel. I need you to start thinking, how can I go back? Last but not least, stop resharing the company of the content of the company, because actually, honestly, nobody's going to read it except the internal people, right? Stop thinking about your own company. Start trying to move the paradigm and talk about them. Talk about expertise, but about your customer. And then, of course, tooling is changing, myriad of tools. You have AIs coming and it's doing lots of magic, but before it trickles down to the operational level, it's going to take a while still. And then last but not least, go think parallel. Now, if we then look at the model, we still have the sales fuel. Sales fuel for me is purely optimized on producing valuable bait. Stuff that you can send to people, people will come to you. Then you talk to them and you have to inject, why should they have this now? So an internal stress exists and they start thinking, I gotta do something. And then you get to the sales machine where we can talk about all the sales skills and closing and all those techniques. And I'm very sure that if you just take one of these slides, it's going to be you in that little boat on the lake of rejection. So to wrap up, perfectly on time, dear Mark, I wanted to say I have a whole YouTube channel with this name, of course, that explains a lot of these strategies and tactics, and I'll be down at, if you want to read more about all the details, I'm down signing books later on today. So if you want to have a chat, come find me and subscribe to the channel.
Thank you, Michael, for your contribution. You never finish.